Well, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster.
Hello.
The Emperor has been expecting you.
You're gonna get your mind right.
Warning. Common sense incoming.
Alive. It's alive!
I'll alert the media.
We have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
Here I come to save the day.
Warning, this contains explicit material suitable for children.
Ridiculous bullshit.
Dignity. Always dignity.
Now to me, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more.
But you know what? I like you, because you are special.
Want to see me make bubbles with my spit? Sure do. In fact, that's the theme of our show.
Great heavens! What kind of radio show is this?
Some religious officials are referring to this as the opening signs of the impending apocalypse.
This is the Blab.
You know, I think the whole bubbles with the spit idea is something that we should definitely entertain one of these times.
Bubbles with spit.
I think, did you ever do that when you were a kid? On purpose?
No, I don't think so.
Well, you've just let the best of life pass you by, you know. Bubbles in the spit, that's one of those things that you do. There's only so much masturbating one can do in a lifetime, and bubbles in the spit
there yet.
is
I am not there yet, Scott.
Yes. And with that, hello to the FCC and all the people who are watching on purpose. You're watching and listening to the Blab. I'm Scott Edward Phelps. That's Dave Simmons. Miss Ethel, by the way, is yes. she's cranked back there, and she's trying to figure out.
I gave Ethel one of these triple shot energy things. She should be off the boards.
Oh, there she goes. She's down. Well, should be back by the time the music comes around. All right, lighthearted frivolity. The good news is there's a postscript to tonight's opening chit chat thing, and it'll all be self-explanatory here in a minute. But had what happened this afternoon not happened, we still would have started the same way, and this is how it would go, something like this. Jon Stewart used to host The Daily Show. He's a known humorous comedian, and he's now a political activist. He's been working for many years now with the folks, the first responders from 9/11. Congress had been, I kind of gave away the punchline, but Congress had been dragging their feet on renewing what they call the Victims' Compensation Fund, which is simply monies allotted to folks who were affected, especially the first responders, their health issues and all the rest of that. Jon Stewart testified before Congress yesterday. Now, this has been all over everywhere, and you may have already, those of you watching and listening to this may have already seen it. But I felt like, we talked about this, we felt like it was important to have a little chat about it on our side, and at the same time, for context purposes, show you a little bit. His testimony ran, his prepared statement ran 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I did a little fast, chop, 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 to give you the gist of this. This thing runs about 5 minutes, but it's worth listening to again. And then the good news is there's happy news at the outcome.
Yes, a happy ending for a change.
Happy ending at this, speaking of masturbation. So let us just share this with you, and then we'll be back to chat about this in just a second.
As I sit here today, I can't help but think what an incredible metaphor this room is for the entire process that getting health care and benefits for 9/11 first responders has come to. Behind me, a filled room of 9/11 first responders, and in front of me, a nearly empty Congress. Sick and dying, they brought themselves down here to speak to no one. It's shameful. It's an embarrassment to the country, and it is a stain on this institution. And you should be ashamed of yourselves for those that aren't here, but you won't be. Because accountability doesn't appear to be something that occurs in this chamber. The official FDNY response time to 9/11 was 5 seconds. 5 seconds. That's how long it took for FDNY, for NYPD, for Port Authority, for EMS to respond to an urgent need from the public. 5 seconds. Hundreds died in an instant. Thousands more poured in to continue to fight for their brothers and sisters. breathing problems started almost immediately, and they were told they weren't sick, they were crazy. And then, as the illnesses got worse and things became more apparent, well, okay, you're sick, but it's not from the pile. And then, when the science became irrefutable, okay, it's the pile. But this is a New York issue. I don't know if we have the money. And I'm sorry if I sound angry and undiplomatic, but I'm angry. And you should be too, and they're all angry as well. And they have every justification to be that way. There is not a person here, there is not an empty chair on that stage that didn't tweet out, "Never forget the heroes of 9/11. Never forget their bravery. Never forget what they did, what they gave to this country." Well, here they are. And where are they? And it would be one thing if their callous indifference and rank hypocrisy were benign, but it's not. Your indifference costs these men and women their most valuable commodity, time. It's the one thing they're running out of. This should be flipped. This hearing should be flipped. These men and women should be up on that stage, and Congress should be down here answering their questions as to why this is so damn hard and takes so damn long. And why, no matter what they get, something's always pulled back, and they got to come back. Mr. Johnson, you made a point earlier, and it was one that we have heard over and over again in these halls, and I couldn't help but to answer to it, which was, you said, look, you guys are obviously heroes, and 9/11 was a big deal, but, we have a lot of stuff here to do. And, we got to make sure there's money for a variety of disasters, hurricanes and tornadoes. But this wasn't a hurricane. And this wasn't a tornado. And by the way, that's your job anyway. We can't fund these programs. You can. Setting aside that no American in this country should face financial ruin because of a health issue. Certainly 9/11 first responders shouldn't have to decide whether to live or to have a place to live. And the idea that you can only give them 5 more years of the VCF because you're not quite sure what's going to happen 5 years from now, well, I can tell you, I'm pretty sure what's going to happen 5 years from now. More of these men and women are going to get sick, and they are going to die. And I am awfully tired of hearing that it's a 9/11 New York issue. Al-Qaeda didn't shout death to Tribeca. They attacked America, and these men and women, and their response to it is what brought our country back. It's what gave a reeling nation a solid foundation to stand back upon, to remind us of why this country is great, of why this country is worth fighting for, and you are ignoring them. They responded in 5 seconds. They did their jobs with courage, grace, tenacity, humility. 18 years later, do yours. Thank you.
And the
powerful.
Not to get overly philosophical or melodramatic about what he had to say, but I was reminded a couple of times while he was talking, when I saw the original play of Martin Luther King's speech the night before he was assassinated, comes a time, which is just a high oratory way of saying enough is enough. Now, the good news, if you haven't heard this afternoon, is that the House took their vote, and for whatever reasons, could it have anything to do with what Jon Stewart had to say? The House unanimously passed the bill to continue the funding and to put the money where it belongs and all that. And, okay, we'll give it this. Out of camaraderie with those who deserve to have the money. But at the same time, here's my take. Let's give them the golf clap for doing the fucking job they should have been doing in the first place.
Yes, 18 years ago.
And all along the way.
Well, you know that fund was set to run out in December 2020. Yeah. That's crazy. They're as close to war heroes as we have, since we haven't really had a major war. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just it's disgusting the way they were treated. And I think I told you this before we went on the air. The thing that irked me worse than anything else is that half of the House members didn't even show up. They didn't even care enough to show up.
It showed in the video there at the beginning. I went back and I realized that hadn't been added in, so I added at the very front of what he said, where he was showing the row of seats where there wasn't anybody in there. You know what? I don't want to do the whole hour on this, but I was thinking about it this afternoon, and I was imagining in my head how I would answer this question if I asked this question. Why do you think this happened or happens? And here's the first thing that popped into my mind. Don't forget. Never forget. The memes show up every September, every 4th of July in some cases, every Veterans Day and Memorial Day in some cases. And it's all well and good, and I don't want to end up right off the bat sounding snarky, but I will say this. It's been 18 years, or it will be this year, 18 years since this happened. That's almost a generation.
Close, yes.
Never forget is a well-intended, heartfelt, patriotic, compassionate thing to say, but it's not a reality.
No, well, people, sharing a meme is meaningless.
People do forget.
Yes.
That ties it all together. On September 11, 2001, I was working I was living in, where the hell was I living? I think I was in Annapolis. I was at work. I saw the original planes crash into the whole thing got started. I came home a little earlier because there was nothing going on at work. And the oldest son and his wife and then 2 daughters were there visiting with us. The oldest daughter was 2 years old.
Right.
The baby was new. She was 3 months old. She'd been born in July of that year. And I remember coming home, and she was laying on the floor, the little one, the baby, in the little jumper, and she was, onesie jammies, on the blanket, on the floor, on the back like a little turtle, doing the thing the 3-month-old do. And the 2-year-old was burring all around. And we had the TV set on, watching by that time, the towers had collapsed. And it was the whole thing. And we were talking about it in quiet tone so as not to alarm the kids. And the 2-year-old is zipping around. And it was so sweet because at one point, my 2-year-old granddaughter at the time, Ella, walked up to the TV screen and she kind of caught her eye for a second. She stood there watching it and she put her hand on the screen for a second. Then she turned around. She just looked at us. And in this kind of quasi-theatrical voice said, "Bad men flew airplanes into the building." And we all kind of got a little misty, and then she went on about her business. Now, little turtle was still laying on the floor doing her thing. Here's the point of the story. That little turtle laying on the floor doing her thing on the blanket this past weekend graduated from high school.
You told me. You showed me the picture, too. Beautiful girl.
Yeah. And she's 17 going on 27. Yeah. I don't envy her parents at all. My point is, to her, and she's a caring, and her sister, Ella, the older one, who's now almost 21, they're caring, loving people. But I'm willing to bet you money that to them, September 11, 2001, was to them, or is to them, what to their parents, my oldest son is almost 45 years old, what John F. Kennedy's assassination was to him.
Right.
What Abraham Lincoln's assassination was to me. I was 12.
I didn't know you were 12 years old when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated.
I was at Fort Stewart. I was 12 years old when JFK was assassinated, so I have an emotional connection to that time.
Right.
Of course, anybody's after a certain age. Okay.
Right.
All right, so short version I said of the story. People forget because they do.
Well, yes.
Time marches on. Time goes on. That doesn't have anything to do with the indifference to and the total disrespect of those people sitting right in front of them who have not, they didn't show up yesterday for the first time in months and years. And this has been going on and going on.
Oh, no-shows are notorious. They're notorious for no-shows.
And there's no excuse.
No. Mm-mm.
So what's to do?
Term limits.
Okay. I'm for it.
I mean, make people do their jobs or get them the hell out of there. The bad thing is they have to vote to get rid of their own jobs. So
you know what? I'm with term limits. I'll go down with that. But let me extrapolate from your idea there. I think that's part and parcel of what needs to happen. But I think what really needs to happen, and that's just one phase of it, and it's something that I bitch about all the time. There's no accountability.
Well, yes.
And I've reached that point in my life with my own life experience, seeing what I've seen when people say to me, well, yeah, there's accountability. There's election day. If we don't let, you know what? That's bullshit. Because no. That's the equivalent to my brain. That's the equivalent of hiring somebody to work for your company. You think they're going to do a good job. They promise to do a good job. You gave them the job. 6 months in, they are the laziest, most useless fucker that's ever existed on the planet. But you got to wait 3.5 years before you can let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Hell no. Boom. You're out of here.
Fire, yeah.
Get lost. You know, this country needs to.
What do we need? A committee? Like an oversight committee that.
Yeah. Why not? And recall elections.
That's not a bad idea, though.
Well, they're available. They just don't. They don't do it.
Right.
The system is there, and the proclivities are there, and there's the big word for the night. The accountability needs to come back.
And here I thought masturbation was the big word for the night.
No, that was just the fun word. These are the, or as my friend says,
Denny Crane.
This is something, and I'll rant for weeks and months to come, especially as we get into election time again. Okay, and this goes into the business with Donald and all the cronies around Donald and et cetera, all these things that are happening. What's the big thing that's missing in all of this? Accountability.
Yeah.
Okay. Congress voted today to hold the Attorney General in contempt of Congress. These are serious charges. This has the appearance of accountability. We'll see.
Yeah, I told you about that.
Well, here's an old parent tip for you. The threat to spank baby is only good if you're willing to spank baby just one time, if only to prove, hey, you little vixen, I'm going to smack your sorry ass if you know, and then you have to smack the sorry ass. All right. Well,
with the spanking, there's a lot of subliminal things going on here tonight.
Congratulations to Jon Stewart. And there will be no mess. Ethel, dear, it's fine. She's back. All right. She wants to rock a little bit. We're going to do this. We'll be back.
Nice.
Stick around.
This is my country, land of my birth. This is my country, grandest on earth. I pledge thee my allegiance, America the bold, for this is my country to have and to
hold. So we were sitting around talking about North Korea a little while ago, and I said, hey, you know what? I saw that movie, and Ethel's got the music. Check this out.
Lovely singing voice.
You had shared a little anecdote with me about Kim Jong-un and what was going on over there in North Korea, which is the Disney World of geopolitics. And you wanted to share that with me. So what's up with that?
Well, I thought it was fascinating that it just came out. I mean, Kim Jong, everybody was like, he is a psychopathic killer. But
in a proud tradition of psychopathic
in a proud tradition of psychopathic killers.
Denny Crane.
But when it came out a couple days ago that his cousin Kim Jong Nam,
I know
never mind. Kim Jong Nam, he was the half brother of Kim Jong Un,
who you remember from last week's lecture.
Yes, and apparently, Kim Jong Un whacked him a while back.
Yes,
in the mob sense, whacked him
brutally.
And but then it came out the other day that he was a CIA informant.
Yes. Nam, not Un.
Yeah, not Un. No, Nam.
Right.
So my question to you is, does that humanize Kim Jong-un? Does it? I mean, because we all relate to Vito Corleone.
No.
You know, and
nothing
Michael
human.
Corleone when he whacked Fredo. You know, our Father who art in heaven. You know.
Forgive my son. He doesn't.
Spit on me once, I'm wet forever.
Tattali is a pimp. I never knew it was Barzini until this day.
But
no, it doesn't humanize Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un is
don't ever go against the family.
Never.
Ever.
They're psychos and nutty nuts. And the one little fun anecdote I was going to throw, which has nothing to do with politics, was when you were talking about Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-nam and who put the bomb in the bomb, was, this is funny. We do this. I mean, we all do it. I know I do it. The name thing. When we think American names, and we just, because we're Americans and we're Anglo-Saxons and all that, we don't really make the connection. But, for example, over there, they have, Kim Jong is the last name.
Right.
And Un is the first name.
Right.
Which is why when they're Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-nam, then they're brothers or whatever they are.
Right.
Well, that don't make any sense. Well, it's reversed. It's like
Right.
Yoda. What used to crack me up for years.
Asian you are.
Asian I am. In the original version of Hawaii Five-0 with Jack Lord and Danny
Bookham
Williams,
Dano.
James MacArthur.
Yeah.
Okay. They showed in the beginning they're doing the rapid fire, and Lord's doing and they show that
Right.
starring Jack Lord, and then the fire and the lights flashing and Danny and James MacArthur shooting the guns and shit. The first Hawaiian guy in the cast, he comes like barreling over the top of the thing, and it says, and Cam Fong as Chin Ho. And as a kid, I remember thinking to myself, what the hell did they do that for? They didn't need to give that guy another name. Cam Fong, there you go. There's a Hawaiian name for you. No, he wasn't Cam Fong. He was Chin Ho.
I like that.
It doesn't make any sense. It makes perfect sense that Jack Lord is Steve McGarrett instead of just Jack Lord.
I always love the token Asian on those sitcoms and those TV shows. Like, remember Jack Sue on Barney Miller?
I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mushy mushy.
Yes. And the token talents on the various and other shows. No, it's... And the whole thing with the CIA, it's naive to think that every government doesn't have plans on every other government, and everybody else is watching everybody else.
But that's pretty close, man. His brother, I mean, that's getting close.
Yeah, and I didn't...
How do you turn him? I mean, what do you see him at Comic-Con and say, hey, you want to work for the agency?
I don't know. I've seen enough of those kind of shows where usually there's some kind of leverage, or maybe they offered him Starbucks credit cards or gift cards. Some people will do anything for those damn cards.
Unlimited ramen noodles.
This is what I'm talking about. All right. No, to answer your question, it does not humanize him.
Well, I kind of felt for him a little bit. I'm like, yeah, my brother crossed. It's like,
yeah. Well,
I loved you, Fredo.
Yeah, they make the Corleones look like I was trying to think of a warm. Who's a warm family? The Duggars. Who's that family that has 63 kids?
What is it, Casey Duggar?
Yeah, good Lord, people, get cable. Okay, do something besides procreate, because
that is true. That is true.
You're not making it happen. All right, and thanks again. Ethel did a wonderful job.
Yes,
the Godfather theme, wasn't that lovely?
That was awesome.
Well, I understand, to take us out to bring us in the next segment, she's whipped up a little something else from the Godfather movie. So,
oh, nice.
Ethel, hit that baby. We'll be right back. All right, I have absolutely no idea what's on the camera this time because we're off. By the way, thanks for being with us if you're hanging in there tonight. And if you're getting a little bit of a slow chopping thing going on with your transmission at Facebook Live, which is where we're streaming live, I'm getting little flash warnings on my screen that it's dropping frames, which is the old high-tech way of saying that it's not buffering fast enough to keep up with the thing. Well, we're all lit up like we usually are, and the lights are turned on too. But apparently Comcast, which is our main server, out as far as our connection is concerned to stream on the internet. Well, let's just put it this way. How do I put it in poetic terms? They're the fucking Antichrist, okay? And they're not behaving themselves tonight. So there's that. So
I worked with Comcast for many, many years.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, but here's what I want to do. This is a random, what I call a random moment of why so serious. We've already talked about Jon Stewart. We've already kind of bounced Trump around. We'll do a little bit more of that and talk, et cetera. The politics and the occasion. Well, I want to just take one little quick moment, do something light and frivolous, and it comes in the form of a little pop quiz that I'm going to throw at you.
Oh.
Mr. Music Man.
Oh, nice.
It was. Where's the drum roll? It's right here. It was on this week in 1965 that a duo about to become a pop icon or become pop icons made their first TV appearance on American Bandstand performing a waltz and being very acclaimed for it. And I need the Jeopardy music, which I don't have.
No.
You want to guess who that was?
Simon and Garfunkel.
Simon and Garfunkel. Good guess.
But wrong.
No.
Oh,
Can you want to name, if it was Simon and Garfunkel, was there a waltz?
No,
tune
I couldn't think of a waltz.
All right. It's tough, because there's been a few waltzes. I did a whole show one time just for fun on pop music and how people say that, for example, they don't like country music. I don't like country music, but I love the Beatles. And I go, well, then you love country music. And they go, what do you mean? I go, well, the obvious ones like Act Naturally and all
right.
that. But you know that one of the Beatles' biggest pop hits was actually a country song. You're a drummer. You know better than anybody else. Okay?
Sounds like you're galloping.
Well, yeah, but it's that dump bump a dump a dump a dump dump a dump a dump a dump, which is like country, help me if you can, I'm feeling down.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so there's that. Now the waltz. Well, damn right, it was a waltz.
It's a social dance from. 다다다담 딴딴 딴딴.
형님 여기 손님들이 waltz 가고 싶은데 어디 갈까?
뭐라고?
그거 마라라라라 딴딴.
waltz.
That's right. That's right.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe.
Fast modulation there.
Yes.
I'm an editing
I
fool.
totally forgot about that.
I know. That's why I set it up that way, because I figured that it would happen. In fact, I enlisted the help of one of my favorite music people.
Denny Crane.
All right. You wanted to talk a little bit about, you said something about crazy and crazy people, but before you do that, I took it, and of course you know me, there's nothing that is done that I can't figure out a way to redo. And I thought, let's take that and turn it into something. We might do it every week. We might just do it as the situation occurs. But rather than just blanket call people batshit crazy or whatever, let's put it into a fun little form. And here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
All right. And you get to hand them out tonight because you brought the nominees, as it were. Yes.
The nominees.
We're going to call them the Darwin Awards. Okay, thanks. That wasn't rude. No, Ethel, that wasn't you, honey. That was Weird Al.
Because I was like, Ethel, she doesn't sound like herself.
She gets confused.
That triple shot must have really messed her up.
She thinks she's singing when she's not. All right, so you brought some nominations for the or winners, as it were, of the Darwin Awards for this week.
Nobody's a winner in this list.
Well, no, wieners maybe.
Well, I know you saw where what was his name? Arne Scoopta.
Gesundheit.
Yes, bless you. He set himself on fire not far from the White House.
You saw that self-immolation trick.
Yes. Like the what was it, the monk that did that in the 60s, and then Richard Pryor did it in the 80s.
To much more success.
To much more success. But apparently it was to protest Trump being president, which this immediately came to my mind. The hashtag not my president. Well, he's not your president if you set yourself on fire and die.
I got to tell you, no. I was going to try to come up. I was trying to offer some sort, I could see. I remember the monks used to set themselves on fire to protest the Vietnam War.
Right,
and
right.
That's the ultimate sacrifice of symbolism and martyrdom and all that. And there's a certain part of you that, if you think it through, has got to admire the commitment.
Commitment, yes. Yeah,
else. But Donald Trump burns my ass, but that's an entirely different scenario than what we're talking about.
Well, did you know that mass knifings are now a thing?
Yes.
You saw,
and not to be confused with the mass knifings who used to open for Queen.
Yes,
on the
yes.
Tours.
No, and actually, it's becoming more and more prevalent overseas, like London.
That's because they have gun control overseas.
Well, that is. Well, basically, there have been 27 deaths in London in 2019. And what were we? Not even a full 6 months in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close enough. But.
And mass stabbings in Japan are on the rise as well. Over the past weekend, 12 people were stabbed. 2 actually died. A guy, I guess, ran through a shopping center or a mall or whatever the Japanese equivalent of that is. Budokan. But
Costco.
But apparently, mass knifings are the thing. And
I wish not. And I was teasing about the guns, but you know what? See, this is exactly the kind of thing that's going to ignite the idiots to start talking about, to taking seriously what I just said and extrapolating on that.
Well, that's because they can't get their guns. See, if they didn't have guns, they just found something else to use to kill people. That's what they got to do. This is what's going on there.
Apparently, that's the case, though.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
And if they took the knives, there would be mass clubbings, and then there would be, mass smacking on the back of the heads.
I think we have to kick back to our old standard blame-a-rama and blame Zuckerberg. It wasn't until Facebook came along and the resulting social media that we knew about these kinds of things. If anybody thinks for a single second that mass murder and psychotic killing and all that other wonderful, loving, really kinky fun side of humanity hasn't been around since the garden, you're just a moron, because of course it has.
Right. We just weren't aware of it. I mean,
and there's that.
Ignorance is bliss to a certain extent.
I wouldn't know.
Well, and then did you see where 2 former state senators were found shot dead in their homes?
It's a start.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, you found it. Good.
I found it this time.
Did it by color.
Actually, and they were both Republicans, actually, but Scott, that is what is wrong with this country.
No, see, now I was trying to emulate everyone's hero, Donald Trump. I was merely playing to the crowd.
No. That's what's wrong with the country. But apparently,
I don't care.
What were their names?
Does it matter? I mean,
Linda Collins Smith, an Oklahoma Republican, and Jonathan Nichols, but just found shot to dead, not suicide.
Shot to dead?
Shot to dead. Hey, that's that Bon Jovi song, right? Shot to the dead.
No, Tim Conway flashed it. Mrs. Wiggins, would you come in here, please? These are people who have been shot to dead.
Shot to the dead.
Shot to dead.
Okay, and in a totally unrelated, and this backs up one of your famous theories.
Oh, I have theories.
A Utah man, Scott Brian Haven. He's got 3 names, so you need to watch him.
Marion Coatsworth Hay.
He made over 2,000 threatening calls to the Democratic Congress and senator over a 2-year period. Now, just recently, over the last week, he was arrested. How many threatening calls do you have to make to become arrested?
I don't know what the criteria is. I'd have to check with my parole officer, but I'm pretty sure that it's,
I would have thought after the second one, maybe even the first one.
No. There's no crime that can't be repeated and repeated.
2,000 times?
The serious. This is America, buddy. Come on, where things are kind of laid out by Curly Moe and Larry.
Bigger and better?
We talk about, on the serious side of that, we talk about all the time about how people were arrested for their 7th or 8th or 12th DUI, and you just, cancer, name any disease you want. Cancer, Parkinson's, all the major diseases that are heart disease, lung cancers, everything else. You know what's going to kill people more?
Stupidity.
Well, yes, as a byproduct, what's going to kill people is, like, for example, God willing, creek don't rise, I won't die of a brain tumor, but there's a pretty good chance, and I have to do this to show you so I don't screw things up. There's a real good chance that I'm going to die of something in my head because I do this about 15 times a day. Okay, and that can't be good. I gave myself an ice cream headache.
I liked it.
but because of exactly that we're talking about. I said this to my wife in conversation on a totally different subject the other day, and I was just being, in passing, I wasn't being, me.
Right.
I just said this. I said, people in this country especially, but in the world it seems like they're just getting stupider. Okay?
Yes.
There's more of it, and yeah, again, social media makes us more aware of that which has always been, but I really do think there's more. Case in point, I travel extensively throughout the area, all the way from my home to the golf course and back, and I do it frequently. I don't go anywhere else, but I go there. I spend, and I'm not a patient guy when it comes to stupid anyway, as we've all ascertained.
Yes.
The number of people who speak, and I'm not a holier than thou guy. I very seldom drive the speed limit, but I don't drive 80 in a 55. I'll drive 60 or 65.
Right.
I keep going and I'm grooving and I'm doing. I'm not a little, da-da-da-da. But I don't tailgate people to the point where they can see the palm print on my forehead at 60 miles an hour. I very seldom look up in my rearview mirror on any two-lane highway anymore, and even if I look up and I see nothing for 6 miles behind me, I can look down at my left hand for some reason and look back up in my mirror, and there's some fucker on my rear end at 60 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
People cutting in. Rudeness, stupid, can't do it, da-da-da-da. And I know it's hard to not sound like
judgmental.
Well, no, I was picturing Jeff Dunham, the
okay.
His old, is it Oscar?
The old guy?
What's
whatever
the
the
guy's name?
old
that
puppet
old
is,
guy.
yeah.
But it's true. Even if I say it in sort of a, gee, I sure wish it wasn't true, kind of golly gosh way, instead of being mean and snarky, the fact of the matter is people are just getting stupider.
Well, they are.
But accountability, back to what we talked about half an hour ago. Why did this happen 2,000 times? Why wasn't it kiboshed at 1900 or 1842?
Or 1603. Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, that's, yeah.
Actually, Ricky wrote in, Biden's going to solve cancer. You saw that headline, didn't you?
Solve cancer?
Or cure cancer. Ricky, solve
no,
cure.
I haven't seen the comments.
Yeah, that's, you got to love Ricky.
I do. I would hire Ricky.
Oh, Ricky, yeah,
if we had any money.
We have no money.
In any future whatsoever, we would bring Ricky in here.
We can barely pay attention.
The thing about Ricky, though, and he needs to stop this, and I know he's listening, so I don't care because I want him to hear what I'm going to say. He needs to stop being that guy. He needs to stop being the guy who will go, oh, it's okay, I'll come on in and help you out and do your thing.
Right.
That's an admirable quality, and you go, buddy, but you're a very talented young man, and you need to be making a really wonderful living at what you do.
Yes,
and
I agree.
Knock that shit off.
I agree.
It's time to stop being free.
We love Ricky. Ricky's the man.
If we had money, though, we would bring him in here, and he would screen our call.
He could rub Ethel's shoulders while she plays.
No, Ethel's very don't do that at all. All right, you know what? Ordinarily, I'm going to jump. Is that all the crazy people?
Yeah. Well, Ricky, yeah. Ricky's all the crazy people.
Well, I can't. I lost it.
Blowed up good. Blowed up real good.
Yeah. All right.
That's all the crazy people for today.
Thank you very much. It's time to get serious again, and in a sort of a semi-way. And it turns out we got stacks of mail.
Oh, nice.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
We also get recordings from 1952 television shows because I could not find that damn song anywhere else except that's from Perry Como's show back in the 1950s. And it's really cute.
You could have done Wait a Minute, Mr. Postman.
Oh, there's thousands of other songs, but I wanted letters. We get letters. And I went looking for it, and I said, you can't see because it's delayed.
Didn't the Box Tops have a hit called
The
Letter? Yeah.
A Letter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Predictable. I don't like to be.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I used the old AOL logo
nice.
on the card. That was
you have mail.
Okay. We got an email. You got an email last week or whenever it was.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. And then it was directed to you email-wise. And then it was published. I saw it. First time it was published on Facebook. I'm not going to use the gentleman's name, but...
No, that was from a different guy.
Oh, well, this is Is John your friend that we were talking about?
No.
Oh, this is a different guy. Well, this read like the same thing you were. It doesn't matter. I'm using this.
Yeah, it was two different people. Believe it or not.
Well, okay.
With the same view.
Well, and I'm going to address that.
And I'm going to sit back
in the form. No, I want you to participate in
okay.
this. This is not about me. I'm not going to do that. I'm not Donald. I don't do that when you come at me with something like that. unless you catch me when I'm hot and cranky and sweaty because I've been outside. And well, you know,
I love when you get wound up. That is my favorite, Scott.
But you've learned, especially at the golf course, when we talk the way we talk. When I've come back in off the golf course and I'm hot, I hate hot and humid, and I was just so I was. I felt bad about it after.
No, I love it.
I was a little harsh about the gentleman in particular, and I shouldn't have been because of his point of view.
But I love Angry Scott.
I know. Well, I love you too, man.
You get like a rosy color in your cheeks.
We're not gonna fucking be Donnie and Marie. So get that out of your head.
Come on, Marie.
All right. I won't use the guy's name except to say his name is John, and he posted on Facebook, and this is what he said. And I'm quoting him: Donald Trump is a braggart, a narcissist, a shyster, and a cad. I like that. Cad.
Oh, that John. Yeah, he's my friend. Yeah.
Okay. People knew all of that and voted for him anyway because they support his stated platform of limiting immigration, populist economics, and a non-interventionist foreign policy, all three of which are inextricably related and intertwined. May I just interject very quickly? John, we're not going to be able to use your material anymore because you're articulate, your vocabulary is obviously extensive, and 3/4 of the people who would be inclined to watch this show and listen in this area don't have a fucking clue what you're talking about. But I'm digging it. He goes on to say, that's why Trump won, not some attraction to his celebrity gravitas or cult of personality. And if he fails to get reelected in 2020, it'll be because he failed to deliver on that platform. His personality is ultimately irrelevant. Unquote.
Very articulate.
Thank you for writing it. Here's my take. I agree with you. I was with you in pretty much perpetuity all the way to the very last sentence. His personality is ultimately irrelevant. I know what you're talking about, and I'm not engaging in a, I know you are, but what am I here? Let me just kind of enhance my take on all this. And this is what I thought up as I processed it. I call it do the math. Here's and I've been struggling with this for 3 years. The struggle is in finding a way to articulate it that makes people understand that I'm not just bashing Donald Trump because I don't fucking like Donald Trump and I want to keep bashing him. I know it appears that way. And sometimes when I'm hot and sweaty and I've just come off the golf course and you catch me in the wrong mood, and I'm inclined to do that. But I don't, in my heart, in my brain, I don't feel that way. It's just really hard, and I'm a pretty good guy with words. It's really hard to get to the core of the articulation. Let me try again. Here's the math. Encouragement plus empowerment equals endorsement. When an elected leader of any kind, but especially a president of the United States, if he is not calling on people's better angels, if he's not trying to inspire people to do better, to be better, to be best, darling, then there are only two other outcomes in play here. Unless I'm missing something, and I don't think I am. One is you're letting people wander around leaderless, which, as we all know, is a really good idea at any given time in humanity, let alone this country. The other is then you're playing to weakness and prejudice and bigotries.
And fear.
And fears. They're demons as opposed to their better angels. I've said this before, I'll say it again, as lucidly and calmly as I can without trying to sound like I'm bashing. And again, one of those score points I have with Donald Trump as in the position that he's in. He's not the president of the United States. It's not his purpose to be president of the United States. His purpose at all times is to be the president of the Donald Trump fan club. He wasn't elected to be president of the Donald Trump fan club. He was elected to be president of the United States. All of the United States. All of the citizens of the United States. Can he make everybody happy all the time? Hell no, nobody can. He doesn't even try. He doesn't care. His interest is in making sure that people who love and adore him, and it gets into the psychology. Let me put a simple example on this because I don't want to do 20 minutes on it tonight. But I did want to address what John had to say, and I get it. He's right. And you and I have talked about the other reasons that are involved. Let me just give you one simple example. Donald Trump has said repeatedly that the free press is the enemy of the people. Well, first of all, how do I put this? Bullshit. Okay. Is the media always right? Of course not. Are they nothing but pure and good of heart and integrity beyond measure? Of course not.
Of course not.
It's made up of people. People. Are there honorable people working in the profession whose job is to get the truth out? However, yes, absolutely. Does anybody with a half a brain who thinks it through, well, I shouldn't put it that way. Does anybody with any sense think for a single second this country would survive more than a year if it didn't have a free press? You may think you don't want a free press in this country, and you may subscribe to Donald's bullshit about it being the enemy of the people, but you really don't want to live in a country that doesn't have a free press, because a lot of times they've already saved our ass more times than you can count. But it's not that so much as it is the fact that in order to play to the fear and get the fans to love him, and that's what they dig, he says shit like that. They are the enemy of the people. Here's what the enemy of the people is. The first, and I'll shut up from the moment it happens. I just know it will, never will, so I don't have to worry about ever having to shut up about it. The day that Donald Trump walks to a podium in the White House or the Rose Garden or on some rally somewhere, one of the love me, beat me, jerk me off rallies, and says,
wait a minute, they have jerk me off rallies?
They do for Donald.
Oh.
And says, white supremacy is the enemy of the people. Nazi sympathy is the enemy of the people. Homophobes and gay-bashing haters are the enemy of the people. He says any one of those things or a combination of those things, I'm liable to put a yard sign in my yard that says Trump 2020, but I know that's never going to happen because the free press is the enemy. Okay, it's that. Presidents who go out of their way to intentionally divide a country for no other purpose than to further their own either political needs or, worse, their own ego needs, and with no other venture in mind. That's that. And on that measure, let me throw in one little part too here that I threw in, and we'll wrap that part. But let's do this. Ethel, hit it, honey. Okay. This is from the White House website. There's a page on the White House website, whitehouse.gov. In big, humongous letters, it says, Trump administration accomplishments and achievements. The font is like, okay. Then there's a list. I counted. There's 53 things they list. The first 22 have to do with the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those lists where you go, okay, because there's like 6 in a row where it goes, African-American unemployment low, Hispanic unemployment low, Chinese unemployment low.
Right.
And it's like we're padding the resume a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. The very last thing on the list reads like this, and I'm not making it up, it's from the White House website, and I'm quoting, quote, we have begun, capital letters, building the wall. Republicans want, capital letters, strong borders and no crime. Democrats want, capital letters, open borders, which equals massive crime. Unquote. Bullshit. I don't know anybody, Democrat, Republican, Progressive, Bernie loving, KFC, kale eating vegetarian mother.
Wait a minute, KFC?
KFC.
Nice.
I don't know anybody personally of any persuasion of any kind who doesn't want us to have secure borders and a safe nation.
Right.
Nobody. But don't believe me or worry about me. Pete Buttigieg, Mr. Mayor Pete, the guy that I'm currently very interested in and watching what he has to say. He was asked this past week on an online Q&A session by a conservative who said he was a conservative online viewer. The question, quote, why don't you want a secure southern border, unquote. First of all, the Freudian implication is he's never said anything remotely to
right.
that.
I've never heard him say that.
So obviously, he's the Kool-Aid is present.
Right.
But here's how Buttigieg answered the question. And I'm only using Pete Buttigieg here not as an endorsement of Pete Buttigieg, but just because taking it out of my mouth. But this is exactly what I would have said too, and this is why I went, good for you, Pete. This is how he answered the question. Quote, everybody wants a secure southern border. Why wouldn't we all want a secure southern border? And I know that in these social media bubbles, other people's motivations get twisted. Does anybody really think that a fellow American is not interested in us having a secure country? I guess my response to your questioner is, what makes you think border security is as simple as putting up a wall from sea to shining sea? Look, the reality is the wall is never going to get built. Everybody knows that. The president knows that. I think a lot of his supporters even know that. It's a symbol. But the very real walls that are being built by this president and by this moment are around us, in between us and each other, and these walls are getting worse. And trying to caricature the motivations of fellow Americans who have policy disagreements as though somebody like me, who put my life on the line to defend this country, is any less patriotic than the questioner, that's the sort of thing that frays at the security of our country, and in my view is frankly much more dangerous than a terrified Central American family coming to plead for asylum through a process that, by the way, is perfectly lawful at the southern border.
Right.
Unquote. I just wrap that all up by reiterating what I said a minute ago. If you're not reaching out to people's better angels and inspiring them, there's only two other things in play that are possible. One is you're just not interested and you're not leadering at all. Or worse, you're appealing to people's demons.
Leadering?
Leadering. It's German for being of the leader. Ing the leader.
I don't want to play like the grammar Nazi, but leadering?
So, John, thank you for that.
Yes.
I agree with you. But
and one of these days we're going to get John on the phone, because John would be a good person to interject into our.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, he's very astute, very sharp.
We'll do that, but it's, or I should say, as opposed to but. It's not confrontational.
No, it never is.
Integrity matters, honesty matters, personality matters, reverence and respect for our foundational institution. It doesn't matter who it is. You, me, Donald Trump, Yoda. I don't give a fuck. Again, Trump is tell them to shove the subpoenas up their ass. These are rules of law.
Right.
We either are or we aren't. Doesn't matter who it is. So, endorsing and not endorsing. And in that spirit of the whole 9 yards, it's your week to do the stick.
Stick of the week. Huey Lewis. Kick it, Ethel.
No, Ethel. She gets into it. She's going like nobody's business. All right.
I brought this up to you, Scott, out at the course today, or a couple days ago, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So when I ask you these questions, that you already know the answers. Were you aware that a drug company called Pfizer had a drug called Enbrel? Enbrel, I guess that's how you say it.
Okay.
That in 2015, it's fucking 2019 now. 2015, they discovered that it actually, I'm going to read the exact quote. It could potentially safely prevent, treat, and slow progression of Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've had a grandfather and a grandmother, each on my mother and father's side, die of Alzheimer's. And it pisses me off to no end that a pharmaceutical company could possibly, and I know this probably goes on more than we know. They probably have a cure for cancer, for God's sake. This probably goes on more than I care to imagine that it does. But they have a drug that could potentially cure or prevent or, enhance or make people's lives better who have been afflicted with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And they're sitting on it. And the reason they're sitting on it, get this, our patent laws do not provide the appropriate incentives. Apparently, I guess their patent is about to run out, and they don't want a generic company to come in on the tail end of all of their R&D and make some money. Your thoughts?
You know what?
Well, let me interject one other thing. Enbrel made them $2.1 billion in 2018 doing what it was intentionally made to do. I think it's an anti-inflammatory drug, I believe.
There's a program on syndicated radio, terrestrial radio, called the Dave Ramsey Show. Dave Ramsey's a financial advisor, ostensibly. He's got some chops. He's written some books, done some stuff. Our friend Norm, who's not known for his particular brand of humor, is more of the style, and I'm not slamming him. He would say the same thing. One day he was listening to Ramsey's show. Ramsey's show is is actually the #1 syndicated radio show in the country. If you've never heard the show, people call in and ask about, well, what should I do about this? My payment, my credit cards, I want to invest in this, and how can I save money? How can I get out of bankruptcy? And he gives them advice on what to do.
Right.
Out of nowhere one night, Norm said, I could do that show. meaning him. And I said, okay. He goes, I could have my own show like that. And I said, yeah. He goes, the only thing it would last like about 26 seconds. And I say, really? He goes, yeah, you want to hear me do my impression of it? I said, sure, let me hear it. He goes, hi, you're listening to the Dave Ramsey Show. I'm Dave Ramsey. Let's take our next caller. Caller, what's going on there? Well, Dave, I got some money problems and I'd like to get some bankruptcy and whatever. What would you do? Well, let me tell you what you should do. If you've got money, spend it. If you don't have money, don't spend it. Don't charge anything and don't get any credit cards. Next caller. That's basically the show. They just do it over and over and over.
Right, right.
You asked me a minute ago my thoughts. Here's how I turn an hour-long or even a 15-minute segment into 3 seconds and then kind of look at the camera with a plaintive expression of what else, or a shrug. The answer to your question is, are my thoughts, greed, and selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
What's to do? Again, and everything in my brain does because it does. You know what? Again, another little Trumpism. I look to leaders to lead. I look to people to inspire. I look for those people to do that. It crushes me, and my crushingness.
Crushness?
I'm riffing here, buddy. My crushingness comes in the form sometimes of what sounds like just constant bashing, but it's because, damn it, I'm angry. I inspire people. Come up with solutions. Stop contributing to the problem.
Right.
The President of the United States, the Speaker of the House, the people in power in government such as it is, instead of saying to Big Farm, make profits, make good profits, make real good profits, but you get those pills down to where people can get them, or we'll figure out some way to make this happen where those things can balance. And what's a reasonable profit? 50%? 70%? How about 40%? And you knock 20% off, and we're working with you with it. But you know what? And you and I both know this is true.
Yep.
They're not doing that. What are they doing? And especially this group of people.
They're lining their pockets.
In a way that historically transcends any lining of pockets. And I'm the first guy to light the fuse and say, don't fucking come at me with, well, everybody's greedy and they're all. I don't give a shit about all that. We're talking about the now, and we're talking about these people.
Yes.
They're not even wasting time with they're going to try to do that. What they're basically saying to these folks is, well, this pill may cure Alzheimer's. There's a Parkinson's pill.
Yeah, I saw that. Michael J. Fox's foundation.
If you can afford $500,000 per pill. But instead of taking on Big Farm and saying, do this, make a profit, make a real good profit, you should, but make those pills affordable, they are, by their actions, if not their literal words, saying, rape them for as much money as you can. If they can't afford it, fuck them. What do we care? I got mine. I don't really care. Now, how do you fix that?
Oh, you outlaw lobbying.
That's one.
Period. Because did you see? I think it was about 3 years ago.
That's the what you do.
Oh,
okay. Not the how you do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Man.
How do you do it?
Landmines and machine guns. Now, did you see about 3 years ago, Bernie Sanders released a list of all the people in the House and Senate that were on the take from the pharmaceutical companies?
Yeah.
And the public just didn't even seem to care. And he listed them. And how much they received from the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
And yet, their constituents still reelected them.
Yeah.
So the problem is us, not them.
Not me.
Well,
Them.
Them,
the people. Not we, the people. Them, the people. The hardest thing...
Did you vote for your senator?
No.
Okay, well, then you're not the problem.
Well, I'm the problem, but not for that reason. The hardest thing that I deal with every day is trying to, and it's kind of always been this way, but especially now, the hardest thing is to come up with something that sounds like glass half full or positive, looking forward, without trying to sound disingenuous about it, because I can't do that. I won't fake it. At the same time, even I don't want to be always the guy who's 1 second away from slapping on the sandwich board that says the end is near. But I'm genuinely, I'm trying to be sincere and not snarky here. I'm genuinely concerned that you and I talked about this before we went on tonight, and we don't have time to get into a whole long thing about it. But what I said was, in fact, maybe we can do this as a teaser for next week, and I'll make a note. I think coming up next week on the Blab, I think there's a good case to be made that America is a failure as a structure, and I think if not a failure, it's very imminently going to fail. we'll get into all that next week. But that kind of addresses what we're talking about here right now, the greed, the selfishness, the indifference. Congress sitting there one entire row not showing up to help these responders, voters not paying any attention, and la-di-da-do-do-do. That's not a working system.
No.
And no amount of flag waving.
It's American politics is a money grab.
But it's always been.
Yeah, but I mean, even worse now.
There's been checks and balances, and the big A word for tonight, accountability.
Yes.
And there's been no accountability. Let's do that next week. Let's talk about that in the context of what you're doing. We got to just about go. We're going to run over time, so let's end some stuff, fun stuff here. Oh, why not? That's right. Time for rim shots, in which we rim shot, and I press the button. It takes us back to the show camera, so that people won't be looking at the rim shot title card. All right, I just pulled these. I was in a hurry and lazy this week because I'm indifferent and I'm a citizen of the country. So what I did was, these actually are from, most of them are from the late night shows. But they got some clever writers along the way. From Fallon, at an event in Iowa this week, 19 different Democrats gave speeches, one after the other. It took over 3 hours. People in Iowa were like, we've never been this bored, and we live in Iowa. There's a list floating around from one of the websites that does this kind of stuff of the most fun states to live in for all the criteria they have established. California and Florida come in at number 1 and number 2. Delaware ranks number 48. The good news is that when Delaware, Endless Discoveries, gets replaced, they're going to go with Delaware. At least we're not Mississippi or West Virginia. From Seth Meyers' show. Joe Biden was campaigning in Iowa, and he says, seeing Joe just isn't the same without Obama. It's like going to a concert to see Oates.
That's pretty funny.
You got to be into the whole 80s thing.
Pretty funny.
There you go. What was the last one? Oh, Donald tweeted about not wanting to go to NASA needs to get off their ass, and we need to go to Mars. And in the tweet, he said, as opposed to the moon, which, as everyone knows, is part of Mars. And, of course, everybody jumped on it because it was a stupid thing to say.
Yeah.
That never said. Somebody posted very cleverly, I wish it had been me, Donald, the moon is not part of Mars, but Sean Hannity is definitely orbiting Uranus. I like that one. And just to show you it's not always about Donald, they had the Pride Week, gay pride celebrations, gay pride parades.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Blowed up good. Blowed up real good. Yeah.
Well, some wags decided they wanted to have a straight pride parade.
I saw that.
In celebration and or refutation of the whole gay pride thing.
Are we going to make a float?
Well, you know, how do you make a dead baby float? Root beer and 2 scoops of dead baby. Somebody tweeted this, and some person, just a civilian, and I loved it because it made me chuckle out loud, and that doesn't happen all that often anymore these days. Straight pride parade, she said. Isn't that really just the drive-through line at Chick-fil-A? All right.
Nice. That was a good one.
Once again, Jon Stewart, way to go, buddy. And we're going to give you, Congress, we're going to give you one little golf clap for doing the fucking job you were hired to do in the first place. And, stay on the job and do the thing.
Jon Stewart is a true American.
He is. And he's a compassionate guy. He should run for president. But he should do it on the Republican side because the whole Democrat thing has got the ship show off to one side. Everybody's about to collapse and go. Anything else you want to say? Ethel, thanks again,
nothing.
baby. Good job.
Thanks, everybody who watch, on demand later in the week. We really appreciate it.
We do.
And keep the emails coming, no matter how harsh they are.
That's right. And Freeberry, as soon as we get some money, buddy, you're our first call. And we'll see you next time on The Blab.
On The Blab.
The Blab.